Yes, let us talk about Michigan. So Michigan is digging in for a fight against the NCAA. The NCAA is going to try to punish Michigan, I think, as harshly as it can. This would be the Committee on Infractions, by the way, not the NCAA enforcement staff, because that's how that works. The Committee on Infractions, which is made of people from schools, they do the punishing. I do think they will try to get the most severe punishment they can. I'm not entirely sure what that is at this moment, because the principals involved in this thing, you've got Connor Stalions, he's gone. Jim Harbaugh, because you can attach anything that was done by an underling to the head coach. They added that because they were really bad at getting head coaches on stuff because of plausible deniability. But Jim Harbaugh's gone. He's in the NFL. So I'm not exactly sure what they can do. They're going to try to punish Sharon Moore. You got deleted text messages from Sharon Moore, but they weren't really deleted because they were still on his phone. He gave his phone to them knowing that they'd find them. So it wasn't I don't even know if that's actually not cooperating. So I'm not entirely sure what they could do.
Okay. Do you want to get into the conversation that we had on the phone the other night? Let's get into that.
Let's do it.
Okay. So you and I were on separate ends of a conversation, although I think we agree on the core issue here, which is this is like, what are we doing? Right. Like, I don't know. The point of this is that when you do something wrong or you're accused of doing something wrong, people want due process and results. So that's fair. But like, there are only two ways I think that Michigan can be hurt at this point, because they have the hardware. As you said, the games are on YouTube. The games happen. We watched them. They won. And they won a lot of those games, or most of them, all the big games after they were caught. And
no doubt. We're talking about the national title season. Yeah.
2 years ago. One would be to suspend Sharon Moore for a long period of time so that it cost Michigan future wins. That's the first way you could hurt Michigan.
Right, which I think is probably something they're trying to do.
Right. And like also, too, if he turned his phone over and there's nothing on it, I don't even know what he's being punished for.
Well, exactly. That's the thing. Like, that's the thing. They're saying he deleted text messages, and that's bad, except that when they said, can you, and this is his personal phone, they said, when you turn this over, will you turn this over? And he willingly turned it over, knowing they were going to find the text messages he deleted. Which means he doesn't think there's anything on there.
On my phone that I would like to recover for personal reasons one day. I don't know. Like, and I know what you're thinking.
Let's call the NCAA. Maybe they can find him.
But some stuff from back in my early 20s. But the second thing is where we disagree.
Yes.
Okay. And like fines, whatever. Michigan can just pay the fine. No one gives a shit. Right.
Right.
So the one way you could hurt them going forward is by penalizing the coach. And I think by penalizing the coach, that also makes the general public feel like he did something wrong, even though it doesn't seem like he did.
Now, I will point out that the head coach at the time did miss 3 games of that season, which is why the 2 most important regular season games, because of this thing. Now, Harbaugh missed games earlier in the season because of the Burgergate thing, but he actually missed 3 because of this thing, which I would argue is the most significant coaching suspension that has ever happened in this era of college football.
I just don't. So that's the thing. Like, before I go to the second thing, which is the number one topic here, I don't know if I were Michigan, I would not lay down if Sharon Moore did nothing wrong. Okay. And I don't know what he did or what he didn't. I guess the point is that they cannot prove that he is culpable in some way. The suspension has already been served.
Jim Harbaugh,
from the head coach, who was in.
Yeah.
Like, what is he out for? Like that's the thing. I would fight. Be like, what am I personally being penalized for?
Right.
But here's the way that I think that you hurt them the most. If they did something and it's proven that they, quote unquote, for lack of a better word, cheated. Vacating the national title. Now, you think that is stupid. So why don't you go ahead and tell
I think it's utterly pointless. I mean, they can do it if they want, but no one will actually care. Ohio State fans will be like, asterisk. Michigan fans will be like, bet, whatever. Come get my national title shit at my house. Like, you're not going to do it. It doesn't change anything. Like, ask the Louisville people who had to take down their banner over the stripper thing. Like, nobody freaking cared. They won the national title. Like,
So this is where we fundamentally disagree, because to me, yes, you can't take away that the games mattered. You cannot take away that JJ McCarthy picture. And you can't even take away the fact that they won the games. Like there's no going back in time. The number one thing that college football fans, I think, care about over the long term is how your greatness is remembered. And I think at the moment that Michigan's greatness 2 years ago is remembered by the general population of college football as a really good run.
I think
Now,
at the moment,
Ohio State fans
this team is remembered by Ohio State fans as cheaters and everybody else as champions, and no one's opinions will change at all, no matter what.
You just made my point.
Did Ohio State fans think they cheated? Ohio State fans will think they cheated no matter what.
No matter what. I'm with you. We're agreeing on this.
And no one else will change their mind, and no one else will care.
What you just said there, I disagree with, because you said that the rest of the sport views them outside of Ohio State fans as champions and a great team. And I think if you take away the title in the record book, whether it happened or not, you put yourself in a position where the rest of the country will view you more similarly.
Okay, Michigan fans in the chat, do you give a crap if an Oklahoma State fan thinks you cheated for the national title? Does that matter to you even one little bit? Let me know. Busy mornings, late nights, working through lunch. Life does not always leave room for a complete and balanced meal, and that is where Huel comes in. This is the Huel Black Edition right here. We've got 35 grams of protein. We've got 27 vitamins and minerals. We got 7 grams of fiber. We have a complete meal in a bottle, and when you don't have time to cook, when you don't have time to shop, being able to grab that bottle and have a meal that delivers all the nutrients you need and all the energy you need to get you through the next meal is a godsend. So go to Huel.com, Huel.com. Use the code Staples15. You get 15% off your first purchase. You also get a free gift. No more skip meals. No more unfulfilling snacks. Huel.com. Use the code Staples15. I'm telling you, it's awesome. My kids will do it for breakfast. My wife grabs them for lunch at work. I'll hit a Huel for breakfast every once in a while just to get me through to lunch. And it always does. I'm never worried about, am I going to be hungry? No, I'm not. It's not like one of those little cardboard box protein shakes. This is a full meal right here. Huel.com. Use code Staples15, 50% off your first purchase and a free gift. Will that change your... If the NCAA says you didn't win that national title, what do you think, like,
what
some
do you think
Pittsburgh
that a Michigan
fan
is going to say publicly? The entire point of being a fan is to talk shit online. You think they're going to go, I care so deeply if they do it? They don't care right now, but I do think that, like, the purity of a championship, very much the same as an Ohio State fan will probably...
It's not a pure championship. It was argued the entire time it was happening. Andy, everyone is aware it's disputed.
Same exact thing as the Ohio State championship this year. Ohio State won the national championship. Ohio State fans right now will probably tell you publicly that they don't give a shit that they lost to Michigan, but in 10 years, when they look back at it, they won't give a shit. Part of it. So
the Michigan, no. In 10 years, Michigan fans going to come up and say, hey, remember when we beat you 13-10? And the Ohio State fans don't care, won the national title. How were your 5 losses that year?
That the stance that you have on this is, when we look back at this in the annals of history, that if there is an asterisk or it is removed from the record books, that people don't care about that at all.
Because people don't care. Like, the world has demonstrated over and over and over again that nobody gives a crap.
I'm going to write about this, and I might be wrong. I know for sure, for me personally, that I would care about the way I was remembered.
Producer River with a good point. Did you think Reggie Bush was not a Heisman Trophy winner for the period that he did not have a Heisman Trophy?
Very different scenario, because Reggie
Bush,
it
is not. Because a Michigan fan doesn't think they did anything wrong.
I'm going to say, you can't say no before I tell you what I'm saying.
Okay, go ahead.
Reggie Bush didn't do anything that was perceived to allow him a competitive advantage. Like, he cheated in the sense that he took money, but, like, nobody thinks that taking money.
And
made
no
them better at
Michigan
football.
fan thinks that they got a competitive advantage.
No
because
Michigan
that's how
fan
they
thinks that because
justify
that's
it
how
in their
they are.
minds.
They have to justify it that way in their minds. But I think if Sharon Moore takes a suspension, or if you take away their national championship in the record books, the general fan who isn't on YouTube with us every day will look at that and say, well, they got their like it's the same thing that with the Fab Five, right? Like no one cares now, right? You're saying that they
Well, the Fab Five also didn't win anything. The Fab Five called a timeout when they didn't have one. That's the most memorable thing they did.
Yeah. I mean, college basketball is just different. I don't think that if I accomplish something that like I would want my accomplishment to be met with a barrage of you cheated. And I think if you vacate the championship, a person that doesn't pay attention to it
There's
will
already a
automatically
barrage of you
assume
cheated. It doesn't change anything.
it's a barrage from Ohio State. I don't think they'd want a barrage from Utah fans.
Utah fans wouldn't care. They wouldn't say anything because they don't
Yeah.
care.
Yeah. And like I wish I could do an anonymous poll that would be because like if I do it on Twitter, then it'll just be a bunch of Ohio State fans trolling it. Like I really do want to know, like, if we're being honest with ourselves, if you are an Ohio State fan, how much does the Michigan game actually in your core bother you? Not outwardly what you say, how you feel when you are alone in your thoughts, and how much, if you're a Michigan fan, would the satisfaction of the championship be altered by it being vacated? And right now, everybody in the job, I don't care. I think people care more than they're willing on to let on.
Or we can take them at face value that they don't care because they don't freaking care. They don't care. They do not care. The world does not care. Like the random Utah fan is not even going to give a second thought to Michigan's 2023 national title in 20 years. They don't care.
Do you think that Houston Astros fans don't care? And I'm not saying it's the same.
I don't think they care at all.
Oh, they fucking care, buddy. You don't see any championship T-shirts from that year. And I think that they're
You live in Dallas. They have a team that recently won a World Series.
I know a lot of people who are Houston fans, and they're like, yeah, that year basically didn't happen to us. And it's like, but like their cheating like was actually like the reason they won. And like that's the other thing about this. It's like I don't know, and the reason why I'm bored by the discourse of this, because the one thing that I actually care about here, Andy, and I think that you are with me on this, is how much did the actual things that they were doing change the results of their games? How much of what they were doing actually helped them win?
Right.
And we cannot prove that. So if we can't
now the teams they beat before they got caught, they would have beaten the crap out of no matter what. That's the other part of the problem.
They were really good. Like in my gut.
And then the teams they beat after they got caught were the ones that might have beaten them, and they still beat them. And oh, by the way, they didn't have their coach for the two most important games, including Ohio State, which still lost to not Jim Harbaugh, which should feel extra bad. And I think it does.
In my gut, I actually don't think that them doing what they did was the reason they won games. But in my chest, when I think, or my head, when I think about it, it's like, well, then why were you doing it? You know what I mean? Like, then what's the point? If it wasn't helping you, then why would you do it? So, like,
I am not one of those that didn't give them an advantage, people. It gave them an advantage.
Yeah.
It did.
So, the question, I guess, here, let's just actually say it. If Connor Stalions was at the University of Hawaii that year, would Michigan have won the national title?
Yes.
In your mind?
Yes.
Yes. And I think they would have too. Okay. I think by vacating it, you create a doubt to the entire country. And you can say people don't give a shit, and maybe they don't.
Because they don't.
People don't. That's the only thing that I think that you could do from a punitive standpoint, even if you don't think that it lands, to actually make anyone care.
No, and that's what I would just, if I'm a Michigan person, I would just laugh at them if they did that. Now,
I would not
be really mad
if
they suspended Sharon Moore for a long time. I'd be very mad about that, because that is actually.
If I was a Michigan fan wearing a 2023 national championship shirt in public, You know, like when you go to the airport after a sporting
Yeah,
event
yeah,
and
yeah.
everybody
Yep.
at the airport is wearing their team's gear, like even when they lose. I would not want the greatest accomplishment of my lifetime as a sports fan to be met with in thoughts as people walk by me, they cheated. That would matter to me. If it doesn't matter to
You're
you,
way
that's
more
great.
sensitive than I
But
am. You just are. Like, I would give zero shits.
yeah, I don't know. It's like the entire point of competition is to be the best. And like if people think you weren't after you prove that you were, that would
Except
suck.
they think they were, and they don't think they got any sort of competitive advantage because that's how they justify it in their minds.
Why would you? Why do you? Yeah, right. So like, I'm not even saying like it. You know,
So
a
what
fan
you're
of the
saying,
team is-
you're acting like you're feeling guilty about it. There's no Michigan fan feeling guilty about it. So if somebody looks at their shirt and is like, "Well, you cheated that year," they don't care because they don't think they did.
Yeah. It'd
So
be like if I wrote a best-selling book
mhm.
and I got a fuck ton of money for it. And then like it came out that like I stole the entire idea for it and it was a New York Times bestseller. I would have all the money, but like my
Oh,
personal
no. You would
accomplishment-
actually have to give the money to the person whose idea you stole it from.
No,
Like
but what if
that's
it was
how
just an allegation and we didn't actually know if I did it or not? It was a he said, she said.
it would go to court and it would be determined whether you did or didn't. So the court might make you pay that money.
You're
So
thinking too deeply on this. I'm
I'm
just
thinking
saying
too
if
logically. I know
if
it's
the
terrible.
greatest accomplishment of my life was called into question as a fraud, that would bother me. Okay, so if it doesn't bother you, that would suck. I mean,
It doesn't bother. What I'm telling you is it doesn't bother them. So if it doesn't bother them now, it won't bother them after getting vacated either. If it bothered them now, you would already know that. But it doesn't bother them.
I don't buy that, and I don't buy that Ohio State losing to Michigan this year doesn't bother them. It might not outweigh the accomplishment, but it does bother them. I think it's the same thing.
I think they're having fun celebrating their national titles. Both of them. The one last year and the one this year.